Good morning, day traders, and welcome to Market Minute, a hedge fund trader's technical analysis for Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. Let's get after it. So a little bit of a trend day setting up here on sort of the index level. Really good kind of bearish engulfing candle with bearish engulfing volume, and then sort of gapping down here this AM. So bearish candle, bearish volume, right, and gap down. We're kind of getting that 3 for 3 here this morning. Need to be a little bit cautious going into sort of Fed minutes, but what we're expecting here is that they're going to tell us they're doing more asset, they're going to kind of stop their sort of asset tapering, right? They're going to speed up that process. They're going to remove sort of everything from their books. And then they're going to maybe give us a little bit more clarity here on how many hikes we can expect over the sort of next, say, 10 months or so. The language around sort of the hikes has changed here a little bit, where instead of going on a 25 basis point hike or a 50 basis point hike here in May or June or whatever, it's more of a discussion of there's going to be a 250 basis point hike over the course of a year. So depending on how they want to split that up, that's sort of the language they're now using here. We'd like to see if that's sort of consistent here across the board. This downside narrative sort of continues right under this 446.90. It certainly has room down towards, say, that 444 area. And then if we can really lose that shelf down towards that 440 zone, but still just want to be a little bit cautious here. This has been a head fakers market, so I want to just be a little bit patient until things look perfect. Similar narrative here on QQQ, right, with that increasing volume, right? Kind of a failed bull flag here, right? So failed breakout plus bearish engulfing candle plus that increasing volume. So if we're now able to sort of lose this 354.80 shelf, certainly looks like there's a path down towards sort of this 350 barrier. Under this first sort of level, I would expect things to move relatively quickly, and then we could kind of slow down here as we kind of creep up towards that 350 mark. But like the potential we have here on the downside, this has been a pretty big gap up. So if this thing reverses, if this thing kind of goes, pretty big gap down. So if this thing reverses, if this thing can go, right, we're going to be looking at sort of BB bands as sort of a BB reversal play here this AM. Apple, right? We want to be entering here at the stop loss on Apple here today, as there's not as strong of a trend or as strong of a momentum here to the downside. So decreasing daily volume, right? Third sort of consecutive bar of that. And that momentum doesn't really look like it's there. So if we lose that 170, 150 and indexes are kind of continually weak, then certainly looks like there's a path here to the downside, but we want to be very cautious looking for entries, sort of looking to enter on sort of a pullback here, a relative pullback before sort of chasing further moves to the downside. Similar narrative here on Tesla, right? With that sort of failed breakout there, right? And then now looking like it might want to go. But after sort of the relative strength we've seen here from Tesla, I'm not quite sure if I really want to chase this thing down. So really more one to watch than one to trade here today. If this thing can recover and show us some legs, maybe this could be a BB reversal play like we talked about here with this Apple. And again, right, want to be a little bit cautious waiting for entries here and looking to maybe enter where my stop loss would have previously been. Microsoft, right? Very similar narrative here to this Apple with a really significant gap down after yesterday's inside bar. If this thing can break down under this 302.50, certainly looks like that path towards that 300 barrier can come very quickly. Once 300 kind of gets lost or sort of gets destroyed, then certainly has some opportunities to sort of sell off towards that 299, 298 barrier. Again, right, because of this sort of disappointing daily volume, it's hard to be super convinced in this sort of trend and hard for us to argue that there's a ton of momentum here. So again, want to be a little bit cautious and look to enter at sort of where the stop loss would have been, right? And then kind of give ourselves an opportunity to be insured while the market makes lower lows. AMD, right? A little bit of a wedge pattern here, breakdown and gapping down here this AM. A little bit of a disappointing volume profile, but we're continuing to sort of continue with that sort of March 31st volume, right? So we're sort of back in play, sort of supporting that sort of long-term thesis here. If we can get that continuation follow through, we can get that continuation breakdown. We're looking for moves under this 102.90, for a move towards that 101.70, 101, and then 100 barrier. Again, right, because this volume profile is a little bit disappointing, we want to wait for that sort of head fake to happen first, pull back, look to enter on sort of that relative weakness, and then kind of chase this move further down. And then NVIDIA kind of giving us that 3 for 3 here like the indexes. So bearish engulfing candle, bearish engulfing on volume, and certainly looking like there's a lot of space down with this gap down. Now we have a little bit of strength here on this March 24th that we'd like to see invalidated. So if we are able to get under sort of that low, that's where things start to get interesting here for me. So looking for a breakdown under this 245.75. for a move and test of this 240 area. And because there's a little bit more of a trend, a little bit more conviction here, it's easier to sort of chase this on a break and hold. So we'll be kind of interested to see how this sets up, but definitely like the potential here. And then obviously this is a huge gap down, so we could look for BB reversals if the market shows us that relative strength. And then Facebook, last but not least, a little bit of a hammer rejection there yesterday on sort of that increasing volume. So really good sign of strength here from bears, right? So very bearish candle, very bearish volume, and then gap down, giving us that sort of 3-for-3 look. If we're able to lose that 225 shelf, looks like there's some resistance at that 224, and then kind of have room towards that 222.60, 222 barrier, and then that 220 zone. So definitely like the look of this Facebook here today. That's how I plan on dominating today's action. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you guys want to trade with me, I'll be trading live on YouTube here all day long, and just follow this. The link should be in the description there below. Otherwise, have yourselves a fantastic session, and talk to you guys all tomorrow for the next Market Minute.